Hey, it's Em. I finally read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I have not read any Emily Henry up till now. I know she's very popular, and this book was actually at an airport bookshop, and I recognized it. I was desperate for something to read, so I grabbed it and ended up not reading it on the plane at all, but did finally just read it. And now we can talk about it. Okay, so I have a lot of complicated feelings about this book. First, let's talk about the setup, in case you're one of the few people who haven't read it yet. I know it just also won the Goodreads Choice Awards and all this. But anyway, Nora is the point of view character because it's in first person, present tense. She is a literary agent in New York, and she has had bad luck romantically. All of her boyfriends apparently have to travel for work, and they end up in these small towns, and they meet these small town girls and fall in love and move out of the city to these small towns to become innkeepers or farmers or whatever. It's very tropey, and this book hangs a lampshade on it. Nora's like, yes, I realize this is the rom-com trope, and it's happened to me 4 times now, and she's kind of given up on finding someone, I guess, or at the very least she's very selective about who she sees because of all of her bad luck and her, busy job. And in the meantime, she also has a younger sister, Libby, who's married with 2 daughters and a 3rd child on the way. And so Nora kind of invests her, love in taking care of her sister and her sister's family, because they don't make as much money, and Nora, has... So when Nora was 20 and Libby was 16, their mother died, and so Nora has taken on the responsibility of Libby since then and has not ceased to be responsible for Libby in ways that are beginning to chafe Libby, because she's a grown woman with her own husband and family now, and much as she loves her sister, she doesn't like feeling dependent. Fair enough. You might start to get the sense that this is not necessarily a romantic comedy book, and that, I think, for me, was part of the complicated feelings. I went into this wanting a rom-com, and what I got was chick lit with a rom-com gloss on it, I think, because there is just a lot of drama. The humor isn't really there for me. There are moments, I guess, that are funny. There's some cute banter. I guess I should introduce the love interest. Charlie is an editor who rejects one of Nora's manuscripts that gets submitted to him. This happens in the first few pages of the book, and then he didn't like the manuscript because it's set in a town called Sunshine Falls, which is a real place, and Charlie says this is not realistic, and Nora's like, well, it's romance, it's not meant to be realistic, whatever. Immediately I was and spoilers, darlings, because we are going to go through this book, so I guess if you want to wait and watch this after you've read it. Immediately I'm oh, he's from Sunshine Falls. Duh. He's this isn't realistic, and he's saying it because he's familiar with the town. And sure enough, the overall conceit of this book is that Libby convinces Nora to take a 3-week, month-long-ish vacation to Sunshine Falls, because when the book comes out with a different editor and publisher, it's a big hit, and it puts Sunshine Falls on the map, and Libby loves this book, and she's like, hey, Sissy. She calls her sister Sissy, which is just don't love it in a grown woman, but okay. Let's go to Sunshine Falls for real. and, soak up the romance from this book that your author wrote and is now this big hit. Okay, so they go and they've rented a cottage. Well, Libby's rented a cottage, and Libby's made a checklist of all the things they're going to do. They're going to save a small business. They're going to pet a horse. They're going to meet hot small town men and have a fling. I don't know. Well, Libby's not, because Libby's pregnant and married. But, anyway, wouldn't you know it, Charlie is there home because his father's had a stroke, and he's helping out because, of course, his family owns a small bookstore in the town. Cute. It's cute. It's a cute concept. And like I said, the book hangs the lampshade. It's like very aware, and like Nora as a character is very aware, I've been sucked into this rom-com trope, and it would have been great if it had been enemies to lovers, but Nora and Charlie have an instant attraction, and then they make up some, there are convoluted reasons why they don't act on it early on, or they get very close a couple of times, like there's some heavy petting involved, and then they put the brakes on for a couple different reasons, and sometimes I bought it, and a lot of times I was like, Nora's very straight-laced, Charlie is very straight-laced. Charlie did not sound like he belonged so Sunshine Falls is in North Carolina, I want to say. He did not speak like somebody who was raised in the Carolinas, and I get that the whole point is he's a New Yorker now, and he's never felt like he belonged in Sunshine Falls to begin with. He always kind of felt outside of like the small town life, because it just never suited him. And so I get why his speech patterns wouldn't necessarily be, mid-Atlantic, southern-ish. But it's still, like, because of his demeanor and the way he's described, I kept hearing a British accent every time he spoke, and that made no sense. And I couldn't rid myself of it, because there was just something about his demeanor and his behavior that just reeked of, like, prissy British guy. And I could not shake that. And yet I kept being reminded that he's like this guy from like North Carolina. I don't know, like at the very least, somebody who grew up there and moved to New York, you can shed an accent, it's true. But you pretty much, it comes back almost to, and I know this because I grew up in the South, and when I go home, that accent comes back full force. So the minute you start being around people who talk a certain way and it's a way you grew up speaking, you speak that way. It's not, you struggle not to if you don't want to, but it is not easy to lose it. So I don't know, it felt, there was something about that for me, it kind of drew my attention that he was this, or was supposed to, anyway. It's a nitpicky thing. I get it. For me, the biggest issue, besides the predictability, and in a rom-com you expect predictability, so that's fine. I saw exactly where this was going to end. I was never faked out by the Libby calling the lawyer plot thing. If you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I was aware of where this was going. It did not take too many brain cells to work out. In fact, it was pretty clear. So that's fine in a rom-com. In chick lit, I expect a little more, but the problem was it was too long. At about 75%, I was ready to be done. I was like, why is this book still going? Why are you throwing in all these little things like Libby going to the hospital because it turns out she's anemic? And, little things like that just didn't feel necessary to the story. I get that it was kind of meant to, I don't know, pad out round out the characters or the world or whatever. But it really just ended up feeling extraneous and unnecessary. It almost felt like there was just too much crammed into this book. And I don't know, for me, I always end up making these videos when I'm always doing laundry. We are a family of 5. There's never not laundry. It just always seems like when I start filming, the washer or dryer starts thumping its way through some cycle. I don't even know if you guys can hear it, but it's like super obvious to me. So anyway, yeah, so it felt like it was kind of overstuffed, in an unnecessary way. I've worked in publishing, so I chose this one because I like reading books about book people. I like reading books about publishers, publishing, editors, writers, so that was fun. It was cute. Charlie and Nora end up working together to edit one of Nora's author's books because the normal editor is on maternity leave. And so, they have some nice little moments there. Again, I don't know if that was really necessary to the story, except that I guess it showed ways that they got closer. It gave them excuses to be together a lot. But honestly, I mean, it kind of dragged on. I don't know if they needed 3 weeks in this town, 3-4 weeks. Like, it ends with this blue moon ball, and I don't know, I feel like you could have done it in 2 weeks and shortened some of the visits to the same 2 or 3 restaurants. Like, this town only has a cafe, one kind of regular bar and grill type restaurant, and then a nice Italian restaurant that's only open on weekends or something. So there's only it got the setting got monotonous in a way, I guess. And like I said, I mean, the ending was a foregone conclusion. There were no surprises. There was nothing especially interesting, because the whole point is the getting there, right? That's romance. You know where you're going to end. You want to see what the actual journey is like. But this journey, it had its moments. And yeah, I don't know. I have zero interest in the people we meet on vacation, okay? Because that's the synopsis of that story. Just has never appealed to me. I might or might not try Beach Read and just see if that one, click to the camera, sorry. I see if Beach Read is any, I don't know, I don't want to say better, but I don't know. You tell me, if you love Emily Henry, would you say that she writes rom-coms or chick lit? I mean, I feel like this is kind of a blend, and I don't necessarily mind that. It just wasn't what I was going in for. I was thinking of something that was going to be a little more lighthearted, and this is, dealing with a lot of grief, dealing with a lot of family issues, and heavier stuff. And maybe if I'd gone in expecting something with more weight to it, I would have felt differently. I would have not felt like it was too long or whatever. But that said, I mean, I still gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I mean, I would probably give it about a 4.2. For a while there, I was going to give it a 4.5, but then, like I said, around that 75% mark, I just started to be wanting to skim and just get to the end. Because I was like, okay, enough. We get it. Let's get to the finish and be done. So maybe this book needed a little more editing, just a little bit of trimming somewhere. One of these plot lines probably could have been shed and no one would have missed it. Anyway, that was my overall thought for Book Lovers. Didn't hate it, just didn't love it as much as I expected to, especially given all the love for it. And, as somebody who loves, like I say, books about books, books about book people. I really wish this book, like, cologne or whatever existed though, because like my favorite scents are like amber and sandalwood and cedar, and I was like, this sounds exactly like the things I like to smell. So I'm just like, why does that not exist? I want that. I want that as a candle or a perfume or whatever. If you know of like candles or perfumes that smell like that, let me know, because I'm all over that. I have sandalwood incense, I have amber, body balm. Those are my things. So, all right, enough of this. I've got one more book to read this year to meet my drastically reduced goal. I haven't decided what that's going to be yet. I've got a stack of stuff. I keep opening things, reading a couple pages and putting them down, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. I do want to read Squires, which is the sequel to Journeys by Jean Rowland, but I'm saving that for the new year because it's chonky, and I need something I can finish this year to meet my goal. So it needs to be something kind of quick. I've got a manga coming, so it might just end up being that manga. But we'll see if you've got suggestions for good wintry reads, something to light the dimmer days. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I usually read mysteries this time of year. Sorry, the cat is now being cat. I usually read mysteries this time of year, something cozy, but again, I'm also happy with like a good holiday set Regency romance or a nice rom-com. Anything like that makes me happy right about now. I'm not in the mood for anything heavy, and like I said, book lovers ended up being heavier than I expected it to be. Okay, the cat is... Anyway... So, suggestions for stuff like that, let me know. And I will see you soon. We'll be starting the yearly wrap-up videos soon. So, till then, take care.